number 4, week 4 of the season for Civic Indians Chatter. I'm your host, Cody Kelly, joined in studio with my co-host, Scott Brown. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Happy homecoming weekend.
Yeah, we're recording this right now, right before the parade, in the midst of a bunch of float decoration going on out here at Riverbend.
Had a big pep assembly, faculty student basketball game.
And the faculty came out on top, 16-12.
Lots of bodies on the floor.
Helps when you have a former NAIA All-American playing.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, she was all right tonight. We're not going to name her. But, well, since we're talking about Riverbend and everything going on here, let's jump right into the Riverbend Roundup. The girls basketball program, we had a busy week. 3 nights on the road. 7th and 8th grade traveled to Sullivan on Monday night, dropping both games in what were much closer contests than the first time that we've seen them. Tuesday night, back on the road at New Haven, Lady Indians came home with a clean sweep. 7th grade picked up a 25-22 win, and the 8th grade picked up a 20-15 win. So that was a really competitive ball games for both teams there against New Haven, and we'll get to do that again with them on the 17th for our pink out game. Thursday night, went to Owensville, where we dropped both games, but competed very hard against a much bigger Owensville bunch. Ayla Shapinski had 13 points for the 7th grade, and Ava Kinsey had 10 for the 8th. I should have checked on how to say her last name before we did this, but it's okay.
Yeah, neither of those are like Brown or Smith.
Yeah, those are a little tougher.
Yeah.
That wrapped up the week. Long week for girls basketball. Next week, though, 7th grade has tournament at St. James, and 8th grade has tournament at Owensville. Moving on to the cheerleading squad. First time ever for the middle school girls cheer program competing in regionals. Something new for the girls out here at Riverbend, and they placed 5th. Coach Miller was very excited and hopes to keep building on the program that has success at the high school. So this is just another one of these feeder programs we talk about because, and we might mention cheerleading here in the high school segment too coming up.
Possibility. And the girls I talked to in class said really excited. They think they would have placed higher, but they didn't have a whole lot of tumbling in their routine. They don't have a lot of tumblers, and a lot of the schools have tumblers, but it's something to build on for the future, so they're really pumped to get to compete at regionals. The cross-country Riverbend group competed at Big Driver on Saturday. The old hilly course in Washington, the driving range has kind of disappeared and is a ghost town, but people still use it for cross-country meets, and we had lots of medalists from the Riverbend group. Dax Harrison finished 4th with a time of 12 minutes, 56 seconds, his personal best, which most of these kids got PRs for this event. Lucas Godfrey, 5th. Mason Vondre came in 8th. And Tyler Partney came in 19th. For the girls, at Big Driver, Elizabeth Jenkins came in 8th. Cheyenne Brinson, 11th. Ainsley Vilsek, 16th. Lily McCann, 18th. And Annalise Dreyer came in 19th place. Sierra Rosales, 27th place for the girls, who took 3rd place overall. And a big time meet, according to Coach Angie O'Neill. The football team competed last night over at the high school on the turf, and they played the Union Wildcats. The 7th graders, another very good performance, came out on top 32-26. I think they had to hold off a late Union rally at the end of the game on defense and preserve a victory. And the 8th grade put up a good fight and scored 22 points, but ended up losing to a good Union squad. So both football teams got to play at home last night.
All right, now just about to do the Riverbend Roundup, so let's throw it up to 425 Indian Warpath Drive where we jump off with some football.
Yeah, Friday night, this past Friday, I thought this was the one that the Indians could possibly get. Watching some of this game on YouTube, I thought both teams were pretty comparable. Just who was going to make the big mistake. And if anybody would make a big mistake, it might cost them a game. And unfortunately, at the end, the Dutchman scored a couple of late touchdowns to beat us 22-12 at home. At halftime, the Indians were up 12-7. And the Dutchman scored the last 15 points of the game for the 22-12 final. Once again, freshman putting up big numbers. Colton Kasuth at tailback, 111 yards on 25 carries. Fellow freshman Seth Stack at quarterback, 13 for 28, 144 yards. Weston Kulik continued to lead the receiving corps, 5 catches for 56 yards. And the Indians racked up 303 yards of offense on the night and gave themselves a chance to win late. And that's what you kind of want to see in the football team making improvements. And the JV Indians lost 28-14 on Monday night, and both groups are still looking for that elusive first win on the season.
Yeah, and like I said, we got homecoming tonight with the Festus Tigers in town. So we'll see how things go there for the football team. Moving on to softball. Softball pretty much wrapped up their season this week, all but postseason play. They split a pair of non-conference games this week. Monday, they traveled to Lynn and took a 3-2 loss. Jalen Miller was the tough luck loser on the mound, pitched a complete game while giving up 0 earned. A little bit of some defensive miscues. Has been something that's kind of got the Indians a couple times this year.
Plagued them, yes.
Brooklyn Cottrell and Brianna Swinford both with 2 hits on the night. Last night, the Indians did run the record back to above 500 at 13-12 with a big 10-2 win over Valley Park. The Indians completed their home schedule and now look at Rockwood Summit next week in the first round of districts, where Pacific is the 7 seed, I believe, and Rockwood is the 2 seed. And that's hosted at Windsor, so they should get to play on the all-turf.
The volleyball Lady Indians picked up a pair of FRC wins this week as they continue to get healthy and try to get rolling towards districts. Tuesday, the Indians rode down 44 and dispatched the St. James Lady Tigers on the road in a quick 3 sets. Last night, the Indians came home and went 4 sets with a competitive St. Clair Bulldog team and got another win. And the Indians just keep trying to get healthy and build momentum towards the end of their season in districts.
And this one here, I'd like to thank Coach Kauser for getting us this information. Like we talked about, it's big if coaches can send us stuff. The cheer program at the high school varsity team took 2nd place in the 3A large division. We were very happy with the placement considering we had an injury that took out one of our flyers the week before, according to Coach Kauser. Luckily, we had a base that had some flying experience, and she jumped right in, and we were able to put a routine on the mat, and we were proud of. Now we're focused on preparing for state. That's according to Coach Kauser. The JV team also had 0 deduction routine and placed 3rd in the JV small division. So it's a pretty good week for the cheer program as a whole, from middle school to high school.
Cross country. I think we'll hear from Coach Swearjohn here in a few minutes.
I think he'll be in studio.
Good guy. Glad to get to know him out here at Riverbend. And his cross country group took on the big driver event as well on Saturday in Washington. And the boys ended up coming in 4th as a team. And then the boys and girls both traveled to Herman Invitational on Tuesday of this week. The boys took 2nd and the girls finished 3rd. His interview, he gives a lot more information on both squads and some of the up-and-coming youngsters in the cross-country program and some of the veterans. And they're tuning up things before districts. They compete at Owensville, I think, next week. And the conference meet will be held by Union, but once again at Big Driver. But cross-country definitely trending up.
Yeah, and like you said, we're going to definitely dive into that a lot deeper here in the interview with Coach Swearjohn. So stick around for that, for the cross-country side. Soccer. The soccer team evened its record 7-7 on the season with 2 wins this week. Monday, goalie Drew Beffa posted another shutout and a 4-0 win at home against North County. The goal scorers that night were Brett Bearden, Aaron Curry, Trevor Klund, and Mason Lucas. On Tuesday night, the boys notched a key 4 Rivers Conference win at Sullivan 2-0. The soccer team plays again next week against Sullivan and the Borgia Knights. Once we talked about it with Coach Smith, it's still conference. There is no plaque, but you still want to win all your conference games and take home, no matter what, it still feels like a conference win.
And the soccer season runs right up to the end of October and butts into basketball season a little bit with their districts.
They ran into a lot of tournaments early, too, that hurt their record. Now that they're back at 7-7, they're starting to show people how good they are.
And our last group of the week, the girls golf team, coached by Rob Shimza. They were set to compete at one of mine and I think your favorite courses in the area at Warrenton and Country Lakes.
Yeah, just started playing it this summer. I love it.
Yeah, it's right up my alley. It's not too long and it's not too hard out there in the golf land. But their meet got canceled and they are preparing for the girls' district golf tournament, which is next Monday at Wolf Hollow.
Yeah, I believe
hosted by the Blue Jays, and the girls' golf will maybe try to sneak somebody into the state meet. this year.
Does it go as golf one that got rid of sectionals? Is it just straight from districts to state?
It was. I'm not sure. I didn't ask this year if there's a sectional or not, but I think they qualify right before state.
Well, that'll just about do it for the wrap-up this week. Before we move on to our interview, we got to go to everybody's favorite segment. Performance of the week. All right, so it's time for Performance of the Week. I thought mine was pretty easy to pick from. I mean, I couldn't pick between the teams because all three of these teams inside of this program had a great week. So I'm going with the cheer program as a whole. Talking the middle school girls for the first time competing in regionals, 5th place finish. We're talking second place finish in the 3A large division and a 3rd place finish for the JV. So varsity was 2nd, JV 3rd, middle school 5th. Coach Kauser has to like what's coming through. And like I said, we're just going to go with the cheerleading program as a whole because there's so many that make up a big part of that team. So, once again, great week for cheerleading.
I know when Coach Kauser came here and got a job, she resurrected that cheer program. It was kind of about the time we started to get really good in basketball, and she took on the tribe, and she had the cheerleading squad, and it just, it's just on another level than what we used to have for cheer, and it's really added a lot to the basketball games.
I will say, though, she was sweating it a little bit at the Powder Puff game the other night when we were getting ready to go to overtime and had no overtime rules. We had to come up with those on the fly real quick.
Well, you guys must have done all right. I guess the juniors came out on top in that.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on that real quick for you jump in yours. We did forget juniors did win 12-6 in overtime. We played a little shootout from the 5-yard line, 3 attempts, and the juniors scored twice. Lexi Lay in around the corner for a touchdown.
We haven't heard that name before on the chatter.
No, we haven't.
And from what I hear, I was not there. It was really pretty competitive out there on the turf between those girls.
There were some tackles. There were some hits that you would like to see on Friday nights. So those girls were getting after it. I'm just glad that I got to step out on the pylon at the end and make the controversial touchdown call that pretty much ended it for the juniors and their win.
Yeah, that's a fun night for a lot of the older girls, the upperclassmen. My performance of the week, I'm going to stay right down here at Riverbend, and I'm going to pick one of your 7th grade girls basketball players. And she contributed to a big win this week, and the 7th and 8th graders played 3 games. And my performance of the week is Ayla Shapinski, 7th grade point guard on the girls team. And I believe throughout the week she had a 26-point total, 8.5 points a game, with their high night being 13 against Owensville. She had 9 points in the win over New Haven. She is the general on the floor for the Lady Indians in 7th grade. Smart, lots of hustle, dives on the floor quite a bit. One of the best defenders, and I think she really, really wants to be a ball player.
Yeah, she is one of the very well. The whole group is a hardworking group, but she is definitely one of the leaders in that hardworking group. She was team captain for me, so it's well deserved. We said she hits the floor a lot driving to the hole. She probably got just as many bruises as she has points for the week, but she gets back up every time.
Yeah, she's a good little point guard. She dribbles with both hands and has a good change of pace. And, like all the young kids are working on their shot still, but a 26-point week is a pretty big week for a 7th grade girl. So great job, Ayla.
Yep, and that will pretty much do it for this half of the show. But like I said, don't go anywhere. We got the really good interview. Coach Brown joins us for the interview, so those are the rare ones. So we're going to have a couple of those in there asking questions. Coach Swearjohn and the cross-country team. It's a great conversation. Stick around for it. We're joined back in studio with our guest this week, Coach Swearjohn from the cross-country side of things. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Also have Coach Scott Brown join us this week for an interview. This is how you know it's a special interview.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy to get in one to start the year.
So this is kind of, if you've heard the show, we start off with the background information a little bit. I know yours is a little different than being a PHS grad, so I'll let you kind of just tell us about what brought you to Pacific and everything.
Well, coming to Pacific, I kind of led following my wife. She's the superintendent here, and so we wanted to bring our family here and kind of set up shop here, and it's been really great. We've Really fell in love with the community, and we're just everything's good. We're just enjoying being here.
Has the transition been smooth for everyone, including your daughter?
Yeah, it's gone really well. When she moved into the district with us, being a junior and established in a school district her whole career, being a student, we were a little worried, but she jumped in, and with our summer cross-country running, she was able to actually meet some girls before school started, so I think that helped out a lot. So the transition for her has been really well.
She had been a big interception last night in the Powder Puff game.
Yes,
oh, wow.
She made the interception at the end of the game.
Yep.
Powder Puff, so she was on the junior team.
She
correct?
was,
The
yes.
winning team that we talked about this week too. Yeah, the big, defensive battle. But so this is not like your first time being involved in cross country
That's
and
correct.
type of running things. So when you came here, where did you last? Were you at? Was it
Orchard Farms? Yep. So at Orchard Farm, I was the head cross country coach for the last 5 years, and then I also was an assistant track coach for 13 years.
Did you ever get to meet Blake Arnett up there at Orchard
Oh
Farm?
yeah, we know the Arnett's really well.
Pacific alumni.
Both Arnett's.
Both
Yeah,
Arnett's.
Two
both
of the
are,
three.
yeah, both, yeah.
They're all three coaches, but he's got to meet two of the
Yeah, I
Arnett's.
got to work with them. My son and daughter, I believe, both had them in class.
Good people.
Very good.
Yeah, before we get into the program here, talk a little bit about the kids and what you're doing. Can you specifically explain to the listeners how a cross-country meet works? Because I see that you're running the middle schoolers with the high schoolers, and it's just kind of one big affair on the weekends, and it's on Saturdays, and you don't have many weekday meets. How do they set those meets up, and maybe give us a few tips on how they run?
So the middle school we try to keep them as tight with the high school as we can. So Angie O'Neill is the middle school coach. So she joins us almost every day, and so we do a lot of the workouts together. So the kids get to familiarize themselves with how we run it at the high school. As far as like meets, it's just kind of which meet we decide to go to. Some of them are on Saturdays, some of them are on weekdays. At the beginning of our season this year, we had a string of Saturday meets, and we just recently had our first meet on a weekday. So that was kind of a nice change of pace.
One at St. James.
Yeah, we had St. James, and this last Tuesday we were in Herman.
Okay. With that, I guess they just kind of start everybody in a big pack, and they have a gun just like a track meet?
So yeah, they have a gun like a track meet. They have starting boxes, so each team is randomly assigned a box. A typical varsity team has 7 runners on it. And so how that works is the first 5 runners are like your scoring team. And then 6 and 7 are just as important because those are runners that can displace other teams' top 5. So it's kind of like golf. You want to try to get the lowest score you can get. So the sooner you finish across the finish line, the lower your scores are going to be.
And they're running 3.1
Yeah, high school runs 3.1 or 5K, and
middle school
2 miles.
2 miles. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I know I can't do it, so at practice, I would assume there's a little more that goes into it. I know a lot of people think they just show up and just run a couple circles and call it a day, but
So yeah, training for cross country is a different beast. I always tell the kids, and this was always told to me by my high school coach. I remember it when I was a freshman. He told me that the 3 most important words for a high school cross country runner are June, July, and August, and that is like our base building, basically mileage running. That's all we pretty much do during the summertime. If you want to be successful in cross country in the regular season, you got to have an endurance base. So that's kind of where it starts during the summertime. Once we actually get to the season, we start dropping different workouts that are going to focus on aspects of the race. So we'll do some speed training, definitely hill training, and such like that. So our week might be several mileage days, but we'll drop in like speed intervals or distance intervals or hill workouts.
And one of your upperclassmen, Nick Hunkins,
Yes.
been one of my favorites coming through school, and he was a great PE student of mine. And I've talked to him a little bit about what you're talking about in the summer, but is there a fine line between overtraining and doing what's just enough?
Yeah, and that's it's unique to each person. It's like teaching. You know, you kind of differentiate your training kind of with like same thing with teaching and your instruction. So we start slow, you know, based on, you know, each kid's ability. We kind of just each week during the summer we kind of add a little bit more each week till we get to a specific mileage. It's kind of set. You know, it depends. I mean, once we get our season going, we run typically 25 to 30 miles a week, you know, with training. You know, during the summertime, some kids, depending on their abilities and what they can handle, might go a little longer. It just depends on the individual.
I don't think I've run 25 or 30 miles ever in my life.
Well, especially, you know, if we're running like, you know, with the meets on Saturday, we're having 6 days a week that we're running. I'm always a big proponent of rest too, so I always tell the kids we needed minimum 1 day off a week from running just to let their system kind of heal and restart.
So this season, you guys are off and running. That's a bad joke on my part. with a few meets under your belts, how have those been going? I know we've read quite a bit of some positive things on the show so far.
Yeah, we've had a good go so far. We've had a ton of medalists. Almost every meet we've had at least one person walk away with a medal. On most meets we've had several medalists from the JV to the high school varsity team, and even on the middle school side. We've had our boys varsity team won our first meet of the year at New Haven. Our girls team, varsity team, won the St. James Invite 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And then just recently at Herman, the boys finished second overall, and our JV team, our boys team, won first. So we've had some success.
Typically here at Pacific, like the more successful programs have great feeder programs. It's either a feeder program at the middle school or it's a established one out of school. Like baseball in our community is really big. Kids play out of season. But do you think it's an advantage to have these kids in the middle school with you and going in 7th and 8th grade?
Oh, I definitely think it is. And Angie O'Neill has done an amazing job organizing and keeping all the middle school kids together with us at the high school. I mean, I just think they get to train with us and get to see us, and the kids become friends with the high schoolers, because the transition, from middle school to high school, there's a good chance a lot of those kids are going to, be in the same, place at the same time. So, I definitely having the middle school running program is huge.
And they have a sense of pride, all these kids at the middle school,
Oh, yeah.
When they run well, they tell us, and
yeah.
they want to be recognized on the PA. And
yes, they love that.
It's really great. That little group that you guys have going, they have a lot of confidence and pride from running down here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of why this show exists, is to put spotlight on Riverbend and sports that don't get it as much.
Yeah.
Cross country seems to be one that kind of gets left out of a lot of things and stuff, and we kind of talk about that. But it's kind of nice too that your social media is great. I see it on Twitter. I love it because I get on, like, cross country had a meet today. I know in a couple hours I'm going to know how everybody did, because there's going to be pictures of medals and all that, so it's nice to see that too.
Yeah, I like to make sure the kids get seen and heard, and just their success, and let everyone out there that's on our Twitter to see that.
And then as we get closer, we're getting to the postseason, kind of starting to be in sights. Conference coming up, we'll talk about that first. How do you feel going into conference as far as a team and individuals?
I feel pretty confident. Coach Lee, or Lindsay Lee, she's my assistant coach at the high school. We've been going back and forth, kind of looking at results from other meets and ours. And I feel like our boys varsity team could be pretty competitive as a team at the conference meet. And I know for certain a handful of our varsity boys on paper should medal and be all conference. So I feel the varsity team on the boys' side has a really good shot. And the girls are very competitive too, and I feel that we can walk away with several medals on the girls' varsity side.
And then we'll move into districts after that, and I know your district's a lot different than baseball, and like we're probably a class 2 or 3 in cross country. I think there's a lot fewer classes. I don't know.
Well, there's still 5 classes.
There's still 5 in cross country. Okay.
And we're in class 4 in cross country here. And this year our district meets a little farther away than normal. We're down in Nixa, Missouri, so we got a little hike.
That's a highway
to get down there. So we're actually going to leave on Friday, and so that way the kids will have a little time. Riding a bus for 3+ hours and expecting to run a competitive race is kind of tough. So we're going to go down Friday night and be ready to go Saturday morning.
And if there's no sectional, it's just district.
Yeah, just districts. So
state.
Yep, districts and state. That process actually changed a few years ago. There used to be a sectional, so now they'll take top 30 individuals and then the top 4 teams.
And conferences this year at?
Conference is hosted by Union, but it'll be at Big Driver in Washington.
Big Driver, a little hilly course.
Yes, we were just there.
Okay.
So speaking of state, as we look forward, is there anybody that you're kind of looking at to try to medal, or just as a team as whole? Or?
Well, like I said, I think our boys team is really coming together, and it's going to be a battle. I mean, going to districts, there's a lot of tough teams and schools there, but I think they have a shot at maybe snagging one of those team spots. And definitely, I think we have some individuals that can push that top 30.
You have a pretty good blend of experience in youth, even on the boys' side. I know
Yes.
freshman Ben Smith has been doing
Yes.
some good things. He's one of our favorite guys from down here, too. And I know Hunkins is one of your older guys. So those are some names that we come across. But they all seem to be like they're contributing this year.
Yes, our boys team is really coming together. Nick has been basically our number 1 runner for the year, and Ben has slid into our number 2 spot.
That's great.
Dylan Stout has been our number 3 runner.
Mm-hmm.
A newcomer this year, Sean Wigger, has really moved to the 4th spot, and then Noah Carrico has been our 5th guy primarily.
He's a baseball guy, one of our baseball kids.
And our number 6 and number 7 runners have been kind of going back and forth. We have a group of boys that are really fighting for that spot. They're making our decision for that top 7 to be very difficult, which is a good problem to have. So
for sure.
And we mentioned the freshman on the boys' side, so I'll mention the freshman on the girls' side with Gracie Dreyer.
Yes, Grace is
terrific this year.
She's done an amazing job coming up to the high school. She's our number 1 runner on the girls' side. Lauren Swearjohn's daughter, she's our 2nd runner. And then Elena Daniels, another senior, has really been into our 3rd spot. And then we have a sister combo, Ruby Jones and Bella Jones, who are kind of our 4th and 5th runners. Carly Vaughn is in that top group as well.
Well, that's great. I encourage people to get out, and if you can attend the districts at Big Driver or get to see a state meet, which I have not yet gotten to see the state meet. I've heard it's quite an event.
It is really neat. For 40-some years, it was in Jeff City, and then just the last few years, it moved to Columbia. Mizzou built their course at Gants Creek, and it is a really neat venue. It is just a cross-country course. And it's really neat for viewing. It's just all-around cool experience for the kids.
Well, Coach, that'll just about wrap it up for us. I want to thank you for joining us. We're obviously glad to have you and the whole family here at Pacific. If you guys can get out, conference meets are fun to watch. The state meet sounds like a lot of fun up there in Mizzou to go check out. And it sounds like the Indians are going to be running strong as we head into the postseason. So until next week, keep up the chatter.